I don't know if you're anything like me, but lately I have been watching these health videos online, trying to make sense of what to do with the years I have left. And I notice that most of them are made by people who have not actually lived through what they are describing. I have. Back in 1962, my doctor told me my blood sugar was creeping in a direction he did not like. I paid attention. I changed what I was doing, and today at 105 years old, I can still walk on my own, cook my own meals, tend to my own garden, and sleep soundly through the night. I am going to tell you the 3 foods I gave up completely, not reduced, not moderated on good days, gave up completely, and what changed in my body when I did. And I am going to tell you something else before I say goodbye at the end of this video. Something more important than any of the 3 foods. Something I have saved until last because I needed you to stay with me long enough to be ready to hear it. But first I want to tell you about my sister Clara. Clara was 2 years younger than me, and she was the healthier looking one of us for most of our lives. Rosy cheeks, never skipped a meal. She had an appetite that the whole family admired, and she loved her sweets the way some people love music, not as an indulgence, but as a genuine comfort she returned to every single day, without question. A slice of something with her morning coffee, something from a packet with her afternoon tea, a little something after dinner because, as she always said, the day deserves a proper ending. We did not think anything of it for years. We did not know what was quietly assembling itself inside her. By the time Clara was in her late 60s, she was tired in a way that sleep did not fix. She told me once that she would wake up after 8 hours feeling like she had not slept at all, like her body had been working through the night instead of resting. She put it down to stress. She put it down to getting older. She put it down to everything except what it actually was. Then came the thirst. Always thirsty, Clara. She started keeping a large glass of juice on the counter at all times. Juice because water felt like it was not doing anything for her. She told me once that the thirst felt like it was coming from somewhere the water could not reach. It was. Her blood sugar had been elevated for so long that her kidneys were running continuously, trying to clear the excess glucose. And the thirst was her body asking, in the only language it had, for help. I also want to tell you about my friend Ruth. Ruth and I had known each other since we were young women. We had sat across kitchen tables from each other for decades, through children growing up, through husbands getting old, through every season that life put in front of us. Ruth was sharp in the way that only certain people are sharp. She remembered the names of your grandchildren and asked about them by name. She remembered the details of a conversation from 2 years prior and could pick it up exactly where it had been left. She was present in a way that made you feel accounted for just by being in the same room as her. When Ruth started forgetting small things, she laughed it off. That is the first thing I want you to notice. She laughed it off one afternoon over coffee, forgot the name of the street she had lived on for 30 years, waved her hand, said her mind was just getting cluttered. She thought it was the poor sleep she had been having. She thought it was the busyness of the season. She thought it was everything except what it actually was. I did not know enough then to tell her differently. That is something I have carried for a long time. Clara was diagnosed at 72. By then, the damage had been building quietly for a decade or more. Her energy never fully came back. Her feet started giving her trouble in ways she could not explain to the doctor in the brief appointments she was given. She managed. She did not complain, but she did not thrive either. And there is a difference between managing and thriving that becomes very visible when you are standing beside someone in their final years, watching them choose between the two. Ruth's diagnosis came later, and by the time it did, the Ruth I had known across all those kitchen tables was harder to reach. She was still there. She still smiled when she saw me. But the thread of her, the sharpness, the remembering, the presence, had been quietly taken, one small piece at a time, over years, while we both thought it was something else. Clara passed at 89. She was gentle and she was loved, and she deserved more years than the ones that were taken from her, partly by choices that nobody had ever explained to her differently. I think about her when people ask me how I have gotten here at 105 with my blood sugar where it is. Because the honest answer is that I got here by doing the opposite of what Clara did, and by understanding why the opposite mattered. Not just following rules, but understanding them down to their roots, so I could hold on to them even when everything around me made the rules inconvenient. Here are the 3 foods I gave up. Not reduced, not moderated on good days. Gave up completely. And most people, I say this with love, not judgment, are still eating all 3 of them every single day without knowing what they are doing to themselves. They think they are making careful choices. I thought the same thing. That is exactly what I want to change for you before you go to sleep tonight. The first food is fruit juice. I gave up fruit juice in my early 60s, and I want to explain exactly what changed my mind, because I loved fruit juice. I had grown up drinking it. It felt healthy. It felt like something a careful person drank. And then I started paying attention to how I felt in the hours after a glass. And what I noticed was that I was hungry again very quickly, hungrier than before I drank it, and that something about my energy in the early afternoon was unreliable in a way I could not pin on anything else. When you eat a whole piece of fruit, the fiber inside that fruit acts as a kind of net. It slows the journey of the sugar from your stomach into your blood. The sugar arrives gradually, in amounts your pancreas can respond to with a measured, steady release of insulin. Your blood sugar rises gently, your body handles it, and the whole thing is managed without drama. When you drink juice, the fiber is gone. Every bit of it pressed out and discarded. What remains is sugar in liquid form, and it moves through your stomach and into your blood the way water moves through an open pipe with nothing to slow it, nothing to catch it, nothing pacing its arrival at all. Picture an electrical wire with the protective coating stripped away. The current still travels, but nothing is regulating it. Nothing is protecting what it passes through. The result is a sharp, sudden flood of sugar into your blood that forces your body to respond with an urgent surge. That surge works. Your blood sugar comes back down. But it often comes down too far, too fast, and that drop is what you feel as the sudden hunger, the shakiness, the afternoon fog that descends without warning. Your body is not being dramatic. It is responding accurately to what you gave it. I have not had a glass of fruit juice in over 40 years. What I drink instead is water with a slice of lemon, or I eat the fruit whole, with the skin when the skin is edible, because the skin is where the fiber lives. The fruit I eat most mornings is exactly the same fruit that was in the juice I used to drink. The difference is that my body receives it as a friend instead of as a demand. I made that switch more than 40 years ago. I have not looked back once. The second food is white bread. I know how that sounds. I know it is not a surprising thing to say, and yet I want to explain it in a way that goes deeper than the standard advice. Because most people hear that white bread raises blood sugar, and they nod and they continue eating white bread. And I think it is because they never fully understood what is actually happening inside them when they do. Most people who are being careful, who have given up desserts, who have cut back on sugar in their coffee, who are genuinely trying, are still eating white bread every single morning and wondering why the results are not matching the effort. I was one of them for longer than I would like to admit. White bread is made from flour that has had almost everything useful stripped away. The bran, which is the outer layer, is removed. The germ, which is the part of the grain that carries nutrients, is removed. What remains is the starchy interior, ground into a fine powder that your digestive system does not have to work very hard to process at all. In fact, it breaks it down so quickly that by the time it reaches the point where sugar is absorbed into your blood, your body treats it almost identically to how it would treat a spoonful of plain sugar. Think of a water pipe that has been perfectly cleared of everything that might slow the flow. The water, the sugar, travels from one end to the other, without friction, without pause. It arrives all at once. Your body surges to meet it. There was a woman in my neighborhood, Frances, who was meticulous about her health. She took her medication faithfully. She avoided sweets entirely. She walked every evening without fail. And she could not understand why her blood sugar numbers would not come down to where her doctor wanted them. Every time she talked about it, she was frustrated in the specific way that careful people get frustrated when the results do not match the effort. I asked her what she was eating for breakfast. Toast, she told me. 2 slices of white toast with a thin layer of margarine every single morning. She had no idea. Not because she was not paying attention, but because nobody had ever explained to her that the bread she thought was neutral was doing the same work as the sugar she was so carefully avoiding. Frances switched to sourdough made with whole grain flour. It took her 3 months to find one she liked. Her numbers moved in the direction she had been chasing for 2 years. She cried when she told me, "I eat bread made from whole grains ground coarsely, where the fiber is still intact enough to slow the sugar down." The difference is not complicated once you understand it. It is the same principle as the juice and the whole fruit. Slow is safe. Fast is the problem. I have eaten this way for decades. I still do it today. The third food is the one that surprised people the most when I stopped eating it, and it is flavored yogurt. Yogurt has a reputation, a well-earned one in certain forms. Plain yogurt, particularly the thicker kind, has protein and beneficial bacteria and a modest effect on blood sugar that makes it a genuinely useful food. I eat it regularly. I have eaten it for decades. But flavored yogurt, the kind that sits in supermarket refrigerators in small, colorful containers and tastes like fruit or vanilla or caramel, is a different thing wearing the same name. I picked one up 30 years ago and read the label carefully, as I had gotten in the habit of doing. And what I found was that the sugar content in a single small container was equivalent to a full dessert, sometimes more than a dessert. And because the word yogurt carries the reputation of the healthy version, People were eating it at breakfast, feeding it to children as a snack, counting it as a careful choice, completely unaware that the sugar inside it was beginning its quiet work. When you consume that level of sugar in the morning, you are adding to something your body has already started without you. Overnight, while you slept, your body was preparing you for the day, releasing a hormone that signals your liver to release glucose, filling your blood with just enough fuel to get you moving. Picture a furnace that has already been stoked and lit before the household is awake. It is running. It is doing its job. When you then sit down and eat a container of flavored yogurt, you are opening the furnace door and shoveling more fuel onto a fire that was already burning. Your body has to respond to what was already there and to what you just added. The work is doubled before you have finished your first meal. What I do instead is plain yogurt with nothing added except what I choose to add. A few walnuts, a small spoonful of ground flaxseed, sometimes a handful of fresh berries, whole, with all their fiber present. The yogurt does its job. The additions slow things down further. And my first meal sets a pace for my blood sugar that the rest of the day can follow. I have eaten breakfast this way for more than 30 years. I still do it every single morning. Now I want to tell you the thing I promised you at the beginning, because everything I have just said, the juice, the bread, the yogurt, all of it is real, and it has mattered, and I stand behind every word of it. But I want to be honest with you the way I would want someone to be honest with me, the way I wish someone had been honest with Clara and with Ruth before the years made certain things harder to change. All of it is about 30% of the picture. The other 70%, and I have lived long enough to say this with absolute certainty, is not in your refrigerator. It is not in your grocery list or your blood test results or the number on the scale. It lives somewhere the doctors cannot reach with a prescription, and it is the difference between the people I have watched decline and the people I have watched flourish at every age, including mine. I watched Clara manage what she ate and still lose ground. I watched Ruth laugh off the signs and lose something she could not get back. And I have asked myself for decades what the difference was between them and me. And the honest answer is not the food. Worry that never stops is a blood sugar problem. I say that plainly because I believe it to be true and because almost nobody says it that way. When you carry anxiety about money, about your children, about your health, about whether you have made too many mistakes to recover from, your body responds as though a physical threat is present. The same hormone that stoked your furnace overnight rises again. Your liver releases more glucose. Your blood sugar climbs, not because of anything you ate, but because of what you are carrying. And if that worry is continuous, day after day, the blood sugar elevation is continuous too, regardless of how carefully you eat. I have not lived a worry-free life. I want to be clear about that. I lost people I could not imagine living without. I faced times when I did not know how things would resolve. But I made a decision somewhere in my 60s, a deliberate daily decision, not to carry tomorrow's weight today. Not because I was naive, because I had watched what carrying it did to the body over time. and I had decided my body deserved more than to be a storage unit for fears that had not happened yet. I prayed every morning, not for outcomes, for steadiness. There is a difference between asking for things to go a certain way and asking for the grace to meet them however they come. That second kind of prayer gave me something I cannot measure in a blood test, but I have felt in every decade since. I also made a practice, the kind that is easy to dismiss until you understand what it does to the body, of having something to give every single day. Not money, not grand gestures, something small. A phone call to someone who had stopped expecting to hear from people. A meal left at a door without knocking. A piece of information passed along because I had it and someone else needed it. The research on this is real. People who maintain a consistent practice of giving their time and attention to others live longer, report lower rates of illness, and show measurably lower levels of the hormones that raise blood sugar and wear the heart down over time. It is not sentiment. It is the body responding to purpose the way it responds to good food, with more ease, more steadiness, more life. And let me say one more thing before I close, because I think it is the most practically important thing I have said. Please stop punishing yourself for the years you did not know what you know now. I see it in the faces of people who come to conversations like this one. The regret that sits right underneath the information they are absorbing. The quiet internal voice that says, "Too late. You should have known this 40 years ago. Think of what you could have undone." That voice is not helping you. That voice is the same hormone that rises when you are afraid. That voice is the body registering threat. That voice is, without exaggeration, adding to the exact problem you are trying to solve. The body you have today, right now, is the only body available to you, and it is more capable of responding, of adjusting, of rebuilding than you have been led to believe. I have seen it happen in people in their 70s and 80s who made changes they thought were too late and found out they were not. The body is not keeping score against you. It is on your side. It is waiting for you to stop fighting it and start working with it. Start with the label on the yogurt tonight. Read what is in it. Let that be the first small act of paying attention. Start with replacing the juice tomorrow morning. Water, a slice of lemon, the whole fruit beside it, with every bit of fiber still intact. Find a bread that still has something worth keeping in it. Walk after your largest meal, even for 10 minutes, because movement after eating is one of the most effective, natural tools for managing blood sugar that exists, and it costs nothing.